moving on to black cards. We're going to begin with the Bearer of Silence. And it's not a bear, which is my first qualm with this card. It's not a bear. Why? Anyway, this card is like Necrotal. It's a 2-mana 2/1 flyer. So we already discussed in blue that 2-mana 2/1 flyers are fine. The Welcome Turn effect's fine. Can't block. Okay, Welcome Turn. And then sometimes it's not exactly Necrotal, but if you're able to get one in a colorless and just have a 2-mana 2/1 flyer with an Edict tacked on, I'd probably play that card. I play that card a whole bunch. So definitely a card that I like. I mean, it's a rare, so you're not going to see too many copies of, but it certainly can be very powerful. Yes, as we've seen, Edict effects are not the greatest in this format. Cough, cough, Blighted Fen. But even still, it can be super powerful, and I am a fan. I'm a fan of Bearer of Silence. Dread Defiler. So it's 6 and a black for a 6/8. Okay, 7 mana, 6/8. It's big. With the Void. Okay. 3 and a colorless, exile target creature card from your graveyard. They lose life equal to the exiled card's power. Wow. This is a late game finisher for limited. Yes, it is super expensive. Yes, you have to untap with it. But if you ever resolve this and untap with it, your opponent's probably just dead. You clobber their face and watch them be sad. So I think, like, again, you don't want to jam too many Eldrazi in your deck, and the fact that this is a 7 mana one is at least reasonable. But again, if you untap with this, just like untapping with any of the huge Eldrazi, they're in trouble. But this one is just can be such a massive clock where sometimes you just pay 4, dome them for 4, pay 4, dome them for 2 more, and you just dealt 6 damage, and that's all the time you're just gonna win the game. I think it's pretty powerful. Essence Depleter, cough cough, 2 power, 3 toughness. Look at all the 2/3s running around in this format, or 2/4s. I'm gonna say it a million times because they keep showing up. When in a colorless, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. I have no issues with having mana sinks existing in limited, and this is a mana sink that the colorless is going to be an actual restriction. It is actually going to be a constraint. You're not going to have as much colorless mana as you think you will without putting a little bit of effort into it. But it's still very efficiently costed. Probably play this card in most of the, like, blue-black, black-red, the Devoid decks that already existed. Those archetypes are very well supported. I'm acutely aware it's not a tap ability. But the fact that it costs colorless means it's certainly limited. But I think Essence Depleter is very good. Did I say that this card was a tap ability? I might say that card's a tap ability. It's not. I think Depleter is it's very well costed for what it does. You're probably not gonna be able to activate it more than once or twice a turn. But if you're getting more than that, it's very powerful. Flaying Tendrils is our infest for the set. All creatures, -2/-2. If it would die, exile it instead. If you look at the sheer number of 2/3s running around, this card, it can be a total blowout. Sometimes. If you remember Infest or Drown in Sorrow, they both were completely playable. They were okay in limited. They weren't, like, absurd. Drown in Sorrow was particularly bad because Voltron. But I think this card is, like, certainly something you want to bring in the sideboard, and it'll have, I think, implications in Standard and other constructed formats. Havoc Sower. Oh my God, 3 power. It's a 4 mana 3/3. Okay, size is fine. Devoid. Okay, 1 in a colors gets +2/+1. Ooh, that is an ability. This is, again, another great mana sink if you have access to this colorless mana, which, again, that's the constraint. Do you have access to it, easy access. Not treating it like a splash, but rather treating it like another color, or having creatures that add that. So Kozilek's Channeler is even better, right? This card, it can be like the fact that you can attack and scare people with a 5/4 or a 6/5 or 5/4 or 6/5, 5/4 or a 7/5 can be great in the late game. I think this card is pretty powerful. Certainly a card I would enjoy playing, and it's certainly very good if you have the colorless mana to support it. Otherwise, like if you don't have easy access to colorless mana, this card is pretty bad. Inverter of Truth. So we have our 4 mana 6/6 flyer with quote unquote downside. This ain't no Desecration Demon. Enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your library face down, and shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your library. That is a very unusual effect, and is very hard to judge. But my gut tells me, bleh. Like, it's a great finisher. The thing is, right, how much do you have in your graveyard? If you have 10, 15, 20 cards by the time you're casting this, this is not a 4 mana 6/6 flyer, right? So, from my experience in Battle for Zendikar, you don't end up with a ton of cards in your graveyard. You end up with a few, but this is not a card I would expect to aggressively play in limited formats. Kozilek's Shrieker. Oh my god, it's not a 2/3, it's a 3/2. It's devoid, sure, and it gets +1/+0 and Menace. Though that is a good pair, and for just 1 mana, it is certainly a card that I enjoy. I think black is very powerful in this set. And this is just another example. Having a 4/2 with Menace can be okay. Because you'll probably just trade off with a 2/3 to be 100% honest. They'll block with 2/2/3s, and you'll be sad. Given, if you have the colorless mana, you can pump it multiple times and eat 2 different creatures, and it can be scary. The first ability you want to play before you attack, or before they get the chance to block. So you at least have to invest 1 mana to get the Menace, but if you can pull it off multiple times, it can be okay. I think it's not like amazing, but it's certainly a fine card. So Kozilek's Translator. What I would give for them not to have included the activate this ability once each turn. That would have been so sweet. It'd be too good, probably, because then you have Channel on a 3/5. Only for colorless, but that's what Channel does. Ho ho ho. This is one of those cards that if you're in desperation mode for colorless mana, you're gonna play it. Otherwise, try and avoid it. I don't think a 5 mana 3/5. We've already seen from Oracle of Dust, a 5 mana 3/5 is not where you want to be in this format. Oblivion Strike, great common. 4 mana, exile target creature. Boom, efficient. It exiles, it deals with it. No indestructibility saves you here. You're just gone. Just gone. Take a vacation into Oblivion. Card's great. Reaver Drone. Oh my god, so many people just want to draft 2/1s for 1 in limited. I mean, I like, you can make the argument that sometimes you want a 2/1 for 1 in limited because you just have a super aggressive deck and you're like, that's what I want. But they're so bad. I am not a fan of 2/1s for 1 in limited. I'm not a fan of 1/1 flyers for 1 in limited. It's just not where you want to be for a lot of formats. Like this is not Gatecrash, and this is not Zendikar. Original Zendikar. Don't play it unless you have a dedicated, like, you've got 15 of these. Then prepare to lose to a 3/3. Or a 2/3 that they play, because there's a million 2/3s in this format. Sifter of Skulls. Now, this card is sweet. So it's a 4 mana 4/3. Okay. That's pretty good already for this format. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a Scion. Okay. Boom. Done. Check it. Gonna play this card basically every time I'm in black. I can find no reason to cut this card. Efficient body. Efficient effect. Boom. Great rare. Move on with your life. Sky Scourer. So it's another Mist Intruder. And its upside is whenever you cast a colorless spell, it gets +1/+0. Color me not impressed. Moving on. Slaughter Drone. 2 mana 2/2 with upside. Probably play this card. The fact it gains Death Touch is even better. You can always leave up if you can leave up a colorless mana. You have a very solid 2-drop, and it's certainly a 2-drop that I'll play. Death Touch is a very powerful effect on your cheap creatures because they can trade up later. And if you have easy access to colorless mana, Slaughter Drone is great. Unnatural Endurance. 1 mana, +2/+0, regen. So the combination of plus power and regenerate is actually okay. It doesn't have Death Touch. Like I like Death Touch plus regenerate a lot more. But for the low cost of 1 black mana, this is a very fine combat trick. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. It is a perfectly fine combat trick. And my stream is lagging because Magic Online is unhappy. So we're going to close that and we're going to bring it back later. So hopefully that makes the stream a little more stable. Maybe. There we go. Okay, it caught up. It caught up, and now it should be way more stable. The memory leak is all done. Okay. Visions of Brutality. 1 in a black. Enchanted creature can't block. When it deals damage, its controller loses that much life. So they're basically never going to attack with this creature. It's sort of like Arrest, except not really. I'm not a fan of Visions. Like, let's say you play Visions of Brutality on an 8/8, right? They're probably still gonna attack. I'm not a fan of Visions. I don't think this is the black pacifism. Thank you for the follow, Randolph Carter. Welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for the follow. I need to reset my alerts. Okay. Witness the End. It's an expensive mind rot. It's a mind rot that loses 2 life. Yes, it exiles. Okay, sweet, but it's not as good as the discard spell that would awaken a land. I think losing 2 life versus having a mana sink later in the game is way different. Corpse Churn. It's a bad 2 mana draw card. Sometimes you get like the best creature in your deck because you played your creature and then it died, but I'm not a fan of this card. I will play a copy if I desperately need something to fill the 2-drop slot that at least, sort of cycles, but I'm not impressed with Corpse Churn. Drana's Chosen is sweet, though. So it's a 4 mana 2/2, so very undercosted. It's not going to block well. It's not going to attack well. But its ability with Cohort of being able to put zombies into play can be really, really, really huge. It gives you an inevitable grindy win con, and I think it's a very powerful rare if you get the opportunity to build around it. The reprint of Grasp of Darkness. If you're heavy enough in black, this card is great. -4/-4 is going to kill most things in the format until you get to super late game. And I've always been a fan of Grasp of Darkness since the first time I saw it, which was in Scars of Mirrodin block. And I think this card is... I loved it then, I love it now. Double black is hopefully not too hard. Not splashable, but if you're in black, you'll probably have enough black to make the use out of it. I think one of the reasons it got reprinted is colorless. The fact you have colorless mana is going to make it a little bit harder, but it still seems very good. Hello, Kalidas Super Mega Ultra Bomb Rare. Do I need to say anything about you? Yeah, Super Mega Ultra disgustingly powerful bomb rare. Jam it in your deck. Congratulations. Enjoy your win. Card is great. Kalidas got so much better in this set than he was originally. Card's real good. Malakir Soothsayer. It's a 5-mana 4/4, which having a 4/4 for 5 is actually a pretty decent body in this format. It's actually gonna contest pretty well. It's gonna attack pretty well and block pretty well. And its ability, tap an untapped ally, you draw a card and lose a life. That's a little bit less good. Like, you can play this and have a decent blocker and then end of turn draw a card, which is where I see this happening, like being fine, is to help you recover in the late game and draw a few cards. And I think it's completely playable. I wouldn't want to play too many copies of it, but I think it's a very, very fine card, and I am a fan of Soothsayer. Null Caller. Hey, look, 2 power, 3+ toughness. Once again, that's like every creature in this format. 3 and a black, exile a creature card from your graveyard, put a zombie. Hey, that's not a bad effect. Another great late game sink, lets you go wide. I think this card is also quite playable, and I have no qualms with Null Caller. Remorseless Punishment. So, it is 5 mana. They lose 5 life, or discard 2 cards, or sack a creature, or planeswalker, twice. So it's either they lose 10 life, but they're never going to do that unless they're about to win the game. Like, they just take 10 damage and then kill you. Discard 4 cards. Or, I understand, I'm just going, like, I don't want to go through all the iterations. But probably what's going to be most common with this is something like lose 5 life and Edict. Or if they have a whole bunch of tokens, double Edict, and then it's just a dead card. My gut tells me that this is not that good. I know a lot of people were like legitimately sold on this card, but I'm on the fence on this one. This is a card that I'd probably have to play and test out, to be 100% honest. I don't think it's like, the upside of this is they have no cards in hand or something like that, and they just take a bunch of damage, but yeah. Anyway, so one of the reasons I kept pointing out all the creatures are 2 power, 3+ toughness, look at Tar Snare. Tar Snare could be a great removal spell in some formats. Not in this format. Not in this format at all. Tar Snare is going to be a trap for a bunch of limited players. It's good against a lot of the Battle for Zendikar cards, but remember, we are playing with 4 packs of Oath and 2 packs of BFC. And Tar Snare, I do not foresee being particularly good. That's right. It's a bad removal spell. Untamed Hunger. Bad enchantment. Moving on. I hate these sort of effects. They usually print at least one of them. This is an expensive enchantment. I'm probably going to lose a game to it over the course of me playing this set, because I just won't have the answer, but the card is just pretty subpar. Vampire Envoy. So it's a 3-mana, 1/4 flyer, so it's not going to attack particularly well, but whenever it becomes tapped, you gain a life. So this is exactly the type of buddy you want with Cohort, right? Because it taps itself, you gain a life, and you get the effect from Cohort. It blocks very, very well. The 4 toughness means it's going to block pretty reliably. And it's playable. It's not great. I'm just pointing up the upsides. I mean, it is a 3-mana 1/4 flyer, so it's not the second coming of a great creature. But it's certainly limited playable, and I'll probably play a copy or two if I get a chance. And lastly, Laporte Chain Mage, 4 mana, 4/2, tap an untapped ally, target opponent loses 2 life. If they don't have the cards to discard or creatures of planeswalker, they have to lose 5 life. Yes. Laporte Chain Mage seems, the 2 toughness is just so killer. It's just gonna trade with everything in the format, and it's gonna trade with things smaller than it. So I'm not a fan of it. Ooh, now we're